We're going to be getting into it. The server is up. There is, again, no warning. As in the blue in the top left, it's from Team Liquid. It is HARSTEM.
And his opponent in the bottom right, in the red, he's RAGNAROK. I almost got it. Almost.
So close.
No cigar, though. As, well, HARSTEM, he does not have... I love it. We saw all the players with their fancy green screens with the their team logo in the upper left, and the HARSTEM's like, ah, yes, it's just my streaming setup. Take a look at my elegantly appointed studio. Absolutely. So, the captain is here. He looks to pilot his team to a victory.
I mean, HARSTEM makes up for it with his facial expressions, really. If you ever watch a game of HARSTEM's and you get to have his face cam on, it is so entertaining. Just the whole time, he's constantly reacting to things that are going on. You know, in the 50-minute game that he played against Stark, there were times when you would see him, and it reached the 50-minute mark, and you would see on his face, you'd just be like, what is even going on? Why is this game going this long? Because in that game, of course, he was in a great position. He should have been able to just win it, but you know, he's just very expressive, and obviously that's why everyone really loves him, because he's such a fun guy. He's, you know, very, very, as I said, very expressive, just very open with all that stuff, and it makes him entertaining to watch.
Well, unfortunately, I guess we don't get to watch him anymore. Not exactly sure why they turned off the face cam, but I don't know. You can't see our faces either, but my face is just sad because we don't get to see that coming on in here. As well, we should probably talk about this game just a little bit. Not like there's a lot to talk about. Standard openers from both sides, and well, we're gonna have to see where we go. We talked about Death Aura as a map as being really good for Sky styles. And, you know, there's an interesting style that I've started to see players like Solar, Raynor start to use a little bit more against this Stargate first, against the double Stargate build, where they actually go for a quick Spire. They go for Mutas to force the Phoenix, and then they go into Muta Corruptor, into that old school Heart of the Swarm style that, well, we don't see a lot anymore, but we've started to see it more and more. And the really cool thing about that is, yes, you do force Phoenix out, but that does delay your move into your third Stargate. That delays your move into the into carriers really quickly. And honestly, Phoenix Void Ray is not nearly as scary as a bunch of Void Rays. So it's that pretty cool. It delays the Protoss moving on into things. The Phoenix first transition does tend to actually get a decent amount of damage done. Knock down, I don't know, 8 to 12 probes. And at that point, the Protoss player is slowed down enough that you have the timing to really get those bases up and get a little bit even more powerful. And then maybe even take those trades with those Corruptors that do allow you to just keep knocking carriers down and just prevent the Protoss player from getting to that Death Ball, that Golden Armada setup that is so problematic for Zerg players in the late game.
Yeah, I think in I forget exactly what the match was, but I did see something similar to that happen. I'm trying to remember exactly. I think it was week 2. I'm just trying to remember. I think it was. Never mind. I guess it's not. It probably actually. I don't think it was a World Team League match, but I do remember watching a game where it was very similar, where you had, okay, yeah, this player, okay, I'm going to go for this Void Race, I'm going to try and get up, you know, this decent army to try and defend, and then the Zerg was just like, okay, I'm going to build Mutalisks. And, yeah, the Mutas do, you know, if you don't get the Phoenix, they do kill the Void Rays, you know, it's just, the Void Rays don't counter it very well, it's very easy for the Mutalisks to pick them off, and then you can snowball that into a win. So, you know, obviously the Protoss has to be very aware. They have to be scouting out and constantly kind of moving around the map to make sure they're seeing everything. With that being said, though, HARSTEM obviously does just like this opening, going the one Void Ray into the Oracle so that he can move out across the map to get some scouting, as these lanes here might actually get, yeah, these are going to force a cancel here on the base, so nice little pick off there for RAGNAROK. And, you know, it's not like a ton of damage, but hey, you get in depth, you cancel the Nexus, so it's just going to be a little bit slower, and all the tempo advantages that you can get for the Zerg are very much welcome.
Absolutely. You got to remember here that one of the big reasons that Protoss players are going for this build in particular is because it allows them to get that 350 third base, to get their third base just about as fast as the Zerg does, and really not fall behind to a 3-base Zerg larva drone production. That being said, though, this is going to be a more traditional timing. This is going to be a 420. I think 425 is when the Nexus went down the second time. So HARSTEM not going to have that quite as explosive of an economy as you would normally like. And, you know, it's actually... So, if we talk about relative timings here, I was once told, and I found it to be rather true, where If the Zerg player, or if the Protoss player, excuse me, gets their third base before 4 minutes, okay, they're just being greedy, right? They're just going to be macro as possible, whatever. If it's around 4:30, it's a more middle of the road build. They want to maybe probably get a little bit of damage done, but they're going to be totally fine. And then anything after 5 minutes, they're going all in. So we are seeing HARSTEM more in that more middle of the road type scenario in terms of how much damage he has to get done, how good his economy has to be. But look at this RAGNAROK. He's going to dive on in here immediately, find that full energy shield battery, which is just going to enable his later run buys, enable any sort of later damage. Actually, he's going to get a couple probes for that matter too, as RAGNAROK actually looking damn good here in this first map.
Yeah, just these little bits of damage with these lings. Again, it's very inexpensive for RAGNAROK to do, and he's making sure that the Protoss is stuck on his side of the map. Now behind it, you know, you would like to see probably RAGNAROK get up his 4th base already. It's not, you know, going to be terribly late though, as he's fully saturated on his 3rd, and there we go. The 4th base drops down. The Spire is going to be built, and yeah, we might see the Mutalisks come out here as we have Leo Reconstitution, which is then canceled as RAGNAROK says, you know what, maybe roaches are not the best idea if I'm not going for that queen push.
Yep, and +1 melee is even a better reason to say, yeah, this is going to be Mutalisks coming on in here behind this. On top of that, we do have the 2nd Stargate on the way, and I do like this from HARSTEM. Well, I normally would like this from HARSTEM, excuse me. We did see that Robo Bay on the way. So most likely this is going to be into Disruptor Tech behind this, which is fantastic against those queen pushes, against those roach pushes. But spoiler alert, there are no queens, no roaches getting ready to move across the map. Now, as our observer so wonderfully points out, HARSTEM is aware of the fact that this is going to be Spire Tech. He's not, of course, moving on into any Phoenix, anything like that just yet, but we will have a quick fleet beacon. So I do think this is just going to be HARSTEM going on into Annie and Pulse Crystals rather quickly. Now, of course, if the mutas are not fast enough, carriers are actually really good against mutas, surprisingly enough, just because of how low armor mutas are. So that is something we got to pay attention to, but there we go. Double Stargate Phoenix on the way here. +1, and we're going to see Annie and Pulse Crystals. And honestly, this first burst of Phoenix is not going to be near, or a first burst of mutas is not going to be nearly as powerful as RAGNAROK would like it to be.
Yeah, it's still going to be a hefty count, though, so HARSTEM has to respect this 14 Mutalisks on the way, now to 16, and those will be moving across the map. But HARSTEM, hey, he's already got his 4th base up. He's going to have 4 Phoenix by the time that this comes, or by the time that this attack hits him. And again, that Observer just sitting pretty there, going to see it all, and on Pulse Crystals, getting Chrono boosted out. So yeah, it's not going to get as much damage as RAGNAROK would probably like, but he can still, if HARSTEM is out of position, get some work done. Also, I do just want to say, we heard there a little bit, a snippet of like the Void Ray voiceover, the Chinese Void Ray voice. It was pretty sick, gotta say. Void Ray, one of my favorite voices. I mean, all the Protoss units have really cool voices, but yeah, here we go. Phoenix going in, and never mind, there's actually 6 Phoenix, and RAGNAROK immediately has to turn around as he realizes that that is not good for him.
Absolutely. So I think we're going to see the end of Phoenix being made in this game. And there we go. Hydraling Bane will be the tech path of choice here, and we don't have Storm, so that's something that makes Hydraling Bane rather good. But of course, we do have a Robo Bay, and Disruptors are pretty good against Hydraling Bane too. I would really, I think, prefer to see just a bunch of Corruptors here going to Muta Corruptor, but you know, once you got +1 Mutas, once you have Annie and Pulse Crystals, well, the Mutas are just dead. None of them will survive unless they can maybe find a bunch of Queens. And actually, no, the Mutas are going to just die, or the Corruptors are, wow, the Phoenix are just going to die on top of that anyways. And now we're at that point where it's a lot of +1 Phoenix, so we're going to see a lot of Overlords die, and that's just going to put RAGNAROK even further back into the Stone Age just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you have 3 carriers being pumped at a time now from HARSTEM on 4 bases. And meanwhile, RAGNAROK, well, he's even on supply with the Protoss, and...
Wait. Oh. What is that supply number for HARSTEM right now?
Exclamation mark at pound symbol.
Sure. Okay.
Oh,
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's been happening a bit recently. I don't know why. I don't know if it has to do with their overlay or something, but I don't know. It's been happening a bit with the WCS overlay. I've seen it in the WTL matches, which is, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure why it has happened. It's like I've never seen a pattern do it.
There you go. 169.
169 supply.
I think that's just the. I think that's just a representation. Oh, absolutely. I think that's just a representation of what the Zerg player wants to say when they realize that their timing didn't really work out here. As we will have +2 carriers really quickly, And yeah, we have +1 Carapace on the way, but I think +2 will be done before +1 Carapaces. And +2 versus +2 carriers versus +0 Carapace Hydras. Well, I'll give you one guess as to how well that one's going to work on out. Because how low HP? Sorry?
I was gonna say, not even just +0 Carapace, but +0 air attack or range attacks for the Zerg. He's getting +2 melee attacks right now, which is really confusing because that would be fine if you're going up against a ground-based army, but this is triple carrier production, and he's seen it.
But has he though? No, he 100% has. Okay, well this is something. 51 Banelings getting morphed on in here as HARSTEM. It's a little bit. I think it's a little bit early for HARSTEM to be sacrificing some supply for probes, but no, he doesn't think so. As now we're gonna see, 10 probes taken on down here. As HARSTEM's like, okay, more? I want it. Oh, more. Okay, anyway.
Man wants his carriers.
Man does want his carriers. We have a bunch of aliens running on in here, and these, these Hydras are just gonna get absolutely taken down. Phoenix with the list. Phoenix actually, these numbers are actually really good against Hydras as well, with the bonus damage to life. But this is the problem here. Ragnarok trying to get a bunch of damage done here, flanking Banelings from both sides. And HARSTEM, he got his wish. He was able to knock down a bunch of probes. I saw very clearly that's what he wanted to do. So, yeah, I guess careful what you wish for.
Oh, is more gonna go down? 32, gonna be more 36. But the real question is, well, do you have a big enough army on the other side of the map? And the answer is, well, that's a whole lot of Lings. That's not enough Hydras at all, and even the Phoenix are not going to be enough. This air army is just absolutely massive for HARSTEM, and yeah, I'm thinking Ragnarok in his mind might be thinking about those little symbols that we saw from the supply from HARSTEM. This is just, yeah, I mean, HARSTEM rolls over him.
Yeah, the +2 carrier timing that Rotterdam was so excited about in Home Score Capital is coming to fruition. Once again, we have, what is that, 5-6 carriers with +2. They're just melting literally anything and everything on the map. But yeah, the Zerglings are going to get on top of that fifth base, of HARSTEM, knock that one down. But again, the question is not a game of whether or not this is going to get damage done, because eventually this will get cleaned up. This is really just a question of whether Ragnarok can beat the army of HARSTEM. And as of right now, that answer is hell to the no here. As we do have Hydras that are doing what they can, but GG! HARSTEM, he's going to take game number 1. But of course, well, we have game 2 loaded on up.
Getting on into it, ladies and gentlemen. It's HARSTEM. He's the blue Protoss in the top right.
And his opponent in the bottom left. He is the Ender of Worlds, Ragnarok. Now, if you kill Ragnarok, does that mean you've saved the world, or that just means you are the one that ended the world?
I mean, I feel like it depends on your goals with killing Ragnarok, Like, do you want to become the Ender of Worlds, or do you want to become the next Ender of Worlds, Like, I feel like there's a bit of technicalities there.
No, we're talking about Ragnarok here. Ender is a South American Zerg. So, or I know, sorry, a Southeast Asian Zerg. So, no, we're talking about Ragnarok here. We're not talking about Ender. Thank you, though, FireBird, for bringing in another player into this conversation. But anyway. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not, but I can pretend to be for the sake of the viewers at home.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, though. The idea of, yes, you beat the person who's going to destroy the world, and then you just destroy the world anyway. You're just like, whatever. You thought you were saved, but actually, no. I'd be quite the twist.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the question of, like, is just fighting Ragnarok is the because Ragnarok is the battle at the end of the world, right? So if Ragnarok doesn't have anyone to fight, is he truly Ragnarok? Is the action of fighting against him the Ragnarok in and of itself?
Yeah. I don't know. My monkey brain is kind of like it's like, oh no, we're talking about philosophy now. I mean, I feel like, for the player Ragnarok, for the event Ragnarok to happen, I feel like that's when he's in tip-top form. I feel like that's really truly the end of the world. Because I feel like Ragnarok, when he has those moments where when he really gets into form, he beats like some of the best players in the world, and you're just like, where did this come from? And it just like, it comes out of nowhere, and he suddenly looks like one of the best Zergs in Korea.
Yeah, he does. You know, he said some great matchups over the last year, playing some really close games against Mario when he was really first coming on in, really first breaking out, I should say, at like the beginning of last year in the GSL when he made the round of 16 and all that. But you know what, we said that, oh well, maybe HARSTEM doesn't go for a Stargate opener on this map because it's a little bit harder to take a third, and no. Don't confuse yourself. Just because it's a little bit more difficult doesn't mean it's not a good build, as we do have HARSTEM once again going for that Stargate build. This time, actually no, it was Stargate into Warpgate in both games, I do believe.
Mm-hmm.
And well, yeah, we're gonna have to see whether this is. Oh, it's gonna be an Oracle first. Okay.
Might be a bit different. We might not see the Stargate actually be the choice of tech going further into this game. Because usually the Oracle, you go Oracle, maybe if you go Phoenix for a follow-up, but usually you might go one Oracle, go for a second, and then get into your ground-based army as you're taking your third base, which it is a lot easier to defend with that kind of an army on this map, because either third you take, it's very open, there's a lot of attack paths to it, but no, actually we just have the Void Ray immediately after, so never mind all that I was talking about. Other options for HARSTEM. He says, no, actually, the Void Ray is the best unit in the game, and nothing can prove you otherwise.
Well, actually, so I think you may be onto something here. Again, we're going to have to see exactly what HARSTEM opts to do. But I've seen it when you do see Oracle first, I do see a lot of Protoss players go for that Oracle into a Void Ray. Of course, the Void Ray is there to knock down scouting, provide a little bit more defensive utility. And then off of that, they do go on into just your typical ground pound, whatever army, Charge-Led Archon, Storm, whatever they have to go for. So we're just going to have to see how many more units come out of the Stargate. And at the moment, it looks like that answer is none at all. As there we go, Robo coming on down. So, you were right, you just didn't know it yet, FireBird.
Yeah. So yeah, gonna be transitioning into a ground-based army here for HARSTEM. And I do like this. On this map especially, I think it's a good option, it's a good choice. The Oracle's getting some scouting around it, seeing that, oh, well, there's not really a lot of places here where there aren't queens to defend. And Ragnarok's perfectly happy just going into 10 drones or so, getting up the defensive Roach Warren. Probably not going to use that to attack, I would imagine, unless we don't see a fourth base go down relatively soon, in which case this might be a timing attack from him. So we'll just have to see about that timing of that fourth base.
Well, as I say that, FireBird, you were right, and then you were wrong, because HARSTEM playing a rather interesting iteration of this second Stargate on the way, as well as a really quick RoboBay. So I think what we're seeing here is HARSTEM kind of realizing that it's a lot more difficult to hold the third on the map, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sacrifice my Void Ray production for just a little bit of time. I'm going to delay that second Stargate for just a little bit of time, but I'm going to get a quicker Robo. I'm going to get a quicker Robo Bay, and then I'm going to have this fantastic opportunity to just have a bunch of disruptors to anchor my defense. Now, how many queens do we have? We have at least 4, as we can see those on the map just now, but we don't have continuous queen production as of yet. Although it looks like we will see Roach Speed on the way here. Not exactly sure what Ragnarok is going for. I kind of expected to see some sort of queen push, Queen Roach Ravager push, but it's only probably 6 queens on the map right now, and if you're going for that Queen Ravager push, you want it to be closer to like 10, 11.
Yeah. I mean, I've even seen, I think, Raynor usually goes up to like 13 or so queens by the time he hits that push, so I mean, we'll see here what Ragnarok decides to go for, but I do agree. I think a queen push is the right call here. Even now, you know, there's not really a massive amount of Void Rays out, so he can still produce enough to try and make this work, but it seems like he's just perfectly content to try and get up his third base, going into the Spire play once again, and Ragnarok just saying, you know what, run it back. I think I can make this Spire work. I think I can, I mean, I don't know if I agree, but I think he's saying that he wants to try and win with the Mulists once again.
Now, do notice here that, A, this has not been scouted as of yet, but B, we do have Disruptor Tech actually getting invested on into here by HARSTEM. So, we didn't see HARSTEM do that in the previous game, right? We saw HARSTEM go, and he just saw the Spire immediately. He said, look, I don't need to buy a Disruptor, it's totally fine. I'm just going to go immediately on in to my +1 Phoenix play. And with that not being the case here, there's maybe a bit more of an opportunity for Ragnar to get some damage done with those initial Phoenix. Now, of course, These will be +1 Void Rays, and that is something. But Ragnarok, all he's doing is he's revealing the third base. And, or excuse me, HARSTEM's just revealing the third base. And maybe if he gets a nice revelation right before the mutants hatch, maybe that's going to be something. Oh, but this is, yeah, this is going to be the solar build a little bit here. It's Queen Walk into a Spire. So the Queens are now moving across the map at like 7:30, so it's going to be a little bit slower. Actually, where is the Spire?
It's at the back of the natural base.
Okay, so that Overseer does not scout it. Anyways, Zerglings are going to show on up here, and that Void Ray should be able to deal with this. But with the Queens walking, well, actually, no, are they going to get... Yeah, they will get that shield battery. That's going to be really nice. It's going to slow down the attack just a little bit. With all these Void Rays in the sky, the Queens are not quite here yet, and that means these the Ravagers, they're just going to take a decent amount of damage. But now we do see Disruptor shots are going to come spinning on in. Now, of course, they're not synced up properly, so the Queens will be able to heal themselves back on up. And this is actually getting a little bit scary for our Protoss player.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is here for HARSTEM is that he does have more Voids than there are Queens, or at least an equal amount. So in the long run, this will work out. A nice split from Ragnarok to avoid that first Disruptor shot as the Queens trying to tank down these Void Rays. And of course, there is no shield battery, so that means that there is no health regen here for the Void Rays. But again, another good Disruptor shot gets tanks or chunks down 3 Queens. Another one gets 2 more. And as the Queens start to fall, I believe that means that HARSTEM should be able to clean this up. Only loses 2 workers, and on the back of this, 16 Mutalisks now on the way, and HARSTEM is going to have to defend one more wave, but if he manages to clean up the Mutalisks, if he manages to avoid taking a ton of damage from that, then this should be a successful hold into a follow-up push from him. But here come the Mutt-Mutts.
More than 16, in fact. This is a Jaedong level Muta switch coming on in here. And you gotta remember, Void Rays, they're not the best against Mutas, but they do have +1. The Mutas don't have an upgrade quite yet, so that's gonna allow them to maybe do something here. But no, HARSTEM, he has an idea of what's happening. Double Phoenix are on the way here, third Stargate on the way, but this is the tech that I was actually talking about, right? Where the Mutas do get in, they get a lot of damage early on, and then they're able to get something. So we're gonna see those. Oh, we're gonna see the double Stargate get powered here. And now, what is the Muta versus Corruptor count? That's what I want to see, but unfortunately, we're not really going to see that here, as Muta is actually not going to trade all that well. I think we saw 1 Void Ray go down. That's just about it. So Mutas, they're going to look to try to get as much damage done as they can, but with all of this static defense, this is actually not going to be quite as much damage as a Ragnarok would have liked at first. Now we have to see how well these Mutas are going to snowball. But again, it's only 7 probes.
Yeah, losing a bit too many. 3 Mutalisks go down. He picked off, I believe, 3 Void Rays there, and got 8 workers continuing to go into these Mutas, now going also into Hydralisks. It's decent damage, and of course he did shut down the Stargates there, which was a lot of HARSTEM's production, but now you already have, once again, that Fleet Beacon, Anion Pulse Crystals, into triple now Phoenix production. And as soon as you have like even 6 Phoenix, it doesn't matter how many Mutalisks you have, as long as HARSTEM micros it, those can just deal with the Mutalisks, as they're going to dive on in here into the third, get rid of those 2 cannons, and it's damage that's getting done. But again, this is HARSTEM's being very good about pulling away his probes. It's not massive or critical damage being done to the Protoss. He's going to start actually shaving away against these Void Rays. They're just not enough there to really fight it. HARSTEM, misjudging how much he had, loses all of his Void Rays, and going to have to now just kind of worry about, or just focus on getting enough Phoenix to deal with this, and he should have enough with Anion Pulse Crystals to chase these down. But I think Ragnarok finally found the damage that he was looking for.
Well, I think, yeah, I don't think it's an economic damage idea, as only 6 more probes do go down, but the big deal here, right, is HARSTEM, I mean, he's still on 80 workers, but the big deal is the fact that the tech here of HARSTEM has been reset. We don't have any more Disruptors on the ground, nothing like that. All the Void Rays have died as well, but we do notice HARSTEM, he does have +2 air. He is getting back on into carriers, and once we get to about 6 carriers, so once he's able to get 2 production cycles on in here, and actually Disruptors are going to back on the menu as well, because HARSTEM, he has observers. He does see that this is going to be a Hydra Ling at the very least coming on in behind this. Once we get those carriers out on the map, well, these Hydras, they do not have any Carapace upgrades. These are +2 carriers, and I think we're going to see a repeat of game number 1, right, where you just get 6 carriers and the Hydras can't really fight. And that is that. Now, with all these Phoenix on the map, right, well, we're going to have to see, well, how much damage you can get done. Because, again, Phoenix are fairly good against Hydras and low numbers. But this is a decent amount of Hydras right now. And they will be able to force the Phoenix back for the moment. I wonder whether HARSTEM maybe just made a little bit too many Phoenix. She's at, what, what's that, like 9, 12 Phoenix right now? Of course, the big question is how many carriers we have. The Phoenix are forced to fight Zerglings at this point, which is never a good idea, but now we will see Ragnarok. He's opening the taps on aggression once again. Banelig's morphing on the right-hand, left-hand side here. And we only have 2 carriers at the moment. So 2 carriers in a full wall, so the Disruptor's not going to be all that useful for the moment here. But of course we do know that wall is going to go on down. Meanwhile, a bunch of slow Baneligs are going to run on into the 4th base. HARSTEM, quick on the pull. And yeah, this is not going to get nearly as much as it happened in the previous game. Slow Baneligs are going to come rolling on in, but you got to remember, carriers, they're just going to target everything down. And are they? No, they're not going to get anything. Okay, 8 workers do go down here, but that's going to be just about it. Even the Disruptors will stay alive, and now it's just a bunch of Hydras. I don't even think they have Hydra speed. Disruptor shots are going to go on out here, and this is going to be actually not all that great. Never mind. So what we're waiting here is we're waiting for the Interceptors to pop on up here, but now the Phoenix, they're going to dive on forward here with Anti-Pulse Crystals with +2. Is there enough? Are there enough Hydras? It looks like just barely enough. Yeah, the army supplies are somewhat equivalent, but the carriers, they don't have enough Interceptors. But as I say that, though, the static defense is doing just enough work here, and the Hydras, they're starting to fall down. Now, Zerglings, of course, they will dive on into the natural, and that is the question. Disruptors will be able to keep that alive. And now, well, with the Zerglings, the Hydras are all down. Ragnarok's going to be forced back, and I don't think we just got enough. I don't think that Ragnarok got enough there to justify what happened. Is, yeah, we have Vipers on the way, yeah, we have +3 on the way, but all of the Hydras went down. The majority of the army of Ragnarok did go down here, and it's just not enough damage.
Especially because now you have a massive carrier count coming out for HARSTEM. Now, the Phoenixes did get reset, which is, of course, very, very nice, because as soon as the Phoenixes are out of the way, that does open it up for, as we see now, Vipers. Ragnarok has a ton of gas getting the Vipers out, so he can start to try and pick away at the carriers using that spell casting. So, you know, I think it was a decent trade, because, of course, Ragnarok, he drops HARSTEM's worker count a little bit. It's not a ton to the point where HARSTEM is struggling for minerals, but at the same point, he's also on 5 bases himself. He's taking a 6th. He's perfectly comfortable with remaxing off of this. And unlike last game, he hasn't made the mistake of getting melee upgrades instead of his ranged upgrades. So he does have +2 attack on these Hydras, getting +3, and also getting that +2 flyer attack for his eventual, if this doesn't work out, for eventually getting into those Corruptors.
Yeah, you know, we talked about the +2 carrier timing in the previous game. And that worked out pretty well for HARSTEM. And my question, though, FireBird, have you heard of the +3 carrier timing? I hear it's even more powerful than the +2, as now we do have more Hydra Links showing on in here. Disruptor shot's gonna be absolutely massive here now. The second Disruptor shot's gonna go on in anyways, although I don't think, yeah, it doesn't look like any of those did connect, but now, well, that is all of the Viper energy, and it's a bunch of +2 carriers. There is no Carapace. The Hydras, they're all gonna go down, and yeah, Ragnarok had a massive army supply lead, but not anymore, and once again, I worry that we've kind of hit that carrier, that critical mass where there are just too many carriers, they have too much upgrades, and HARSTEM, he just has too powerful of an army. Now, we do have 18 Corruptors on the way. That is going to be something, but once again, we don't see any, we see air attack, sure, but we don't see air armor. So these Corruptors, they're going to die pretty quickly too. Again, it's +2. I cannot say enough about how powerful +2 carriers are. And now we do have, well, the carriers, they're going to run on in here. There's just not a lot of anti-air here. The Spores are going to get targeted down. Corruptors are going to get targeted down. That being said, of course, Corruptors, they do a decent job here against carriers, but they're just getting targeted on down here. Carriers, they're fighting strong. Archons are joining the fray. There's just not enough here. And, well, maybe they're going to eventually whittle all this down, but the question is how much damage is going to be done before everything dies.
Only 2 carriers managed to get eliminated, and there are Lings here that clean up the ground army, but, I mean, now the anti-air, it's only 3 Queens. There are some Spores, of course, but, you know, it's not a lot. Of course, HARSTEM has to pull back. He doesn't want to lose these final 4 carriers while he's still trying to rebuild them. The banks for both players have just been completely eliminated. Now you have 14 Hydralisks on the way for Ragnarok, saying, hey, listen, I have +3 on these Hydras. They're just going to trade a little bit better, so I need to try and get this army up. I need to try and get these units to defend this 5th base. Of course, he has a 6 across the map, but if he ends up losing too much to this push, of course, you know, it's very possible that those bases just end up going down. Now, the real question is, HARSTEM doesn't kill with that initial push, which really felt like his best chance to try and get the victory here. And now you have Ragnarok, once again, getting up a massive Hydra ball, a ton of Lings to zone out the Archons so they cannot get on top of the Hydras, and actually the Lings trading very, very well as the Interceptors are going to get all cleaned up. Lings are gone, is now the ground army going to try and push through, and Ragnarok, it just feels like consistently barely is teetering the line between both having enough to deal with this Protoss army and just barely not having enough.
All right, there we go. That's what I was looking for from HARSTEM. We have Storm on the way, Corona, of course, being spent on into it. So this mass Hydra army that is doing a decent job here of making this whole happen, well, Hydras, they're kind of paper against Storm. So we're going to have to see what happens with that, whether Ragnarok's going to be able to realize exactly what's happening and maybe play around the Storms, get the good splits, but also transition into something. Like honestly, there's not a lot of good Zerg anti here that is good against Storm, but maybe go into a bunch of spores even more than he has right now, and just go like Spore Viper, Corrupt, or something like that. As these run-bys are going to try to start to get something done here for HARSTEM. Not a whole lot though, but HARSTEM though realizing that maybe he's not going to be able to kill Ragnarok here, getting that 5th base on the way, morphing in all those High Templar, and looking really just to get towards that maxed out position. Now, you said that this was HARSTEM's best shot to win the game, with that +2.5 carrier timing, as a +3 did, I think, did finish during that fight. But I'm not convinced, right? This is still an incredibly powerful Skytest army. It does have a +3 attack. It will have Storm now, and it's just a bunch of Hydras.
Yeah,
and those storms and feedbacks.
Mainly to clean up the High Templar.
Yeah, we can say that is a bit of a problem here, but now it's a bunch of, well, I should say most of the Interceptors are still alive. Archon's getting on top of these Hydras. Actually, no, never mind. This is not looking nearly as good for the Protoss as I thought it was. And now a bunch of Banelings are going to come rolling on in to this prospective mining base here. The base won't go down, of course. It's a lot of shields. But we're going to have to see whether the carriers can clean all this up, whether they've had enough time to rebuild the Interceptors. Looks like the answer is no. And it's looking like this 5th base of HARSTEM is about to get broken.
And not easy to hold this with just the charge loss and the few intercepts being rebuilt. Of course, it's not a large army for the Zerg either. There's not a lot of Hydralisks left as the reinforcements are going to come on in, and Ragnarok just trying to see if he can barely try and leverage this position into a victory. Carriers have to be pulled back. They're going to get focused down, though those +3 Hydras do so much damage. Shield battery overcharge doesn't matter when you have so many Hydras. GG, and Ragnarok just barely manages to eke out the win.